Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Vu. I'm a Vietnamese student at Seton Hall University, and I've studied Chinese for 2 years. 但是我的风水这个生病了会大家在一起。Unfortunately, my classmate has taken ill, so I apologize for appearing before you alone today. 今天我要跟大家谈谈我研究的中国文化精髓。One day, two brothers were arguing over something very trivial. The father became very tired of this argument, so he bade the two boys to go out into the forest and collect a bunch of sticks. When they returned, he gave each boy a stick and told them to break it. The father asked, "Is this easy?" "Very easy," said the boys. Then he gave them 2 sticks and told them to break it again. "Is this easy?" "Yes, but a little bit harder." Then he gave the boys the entire bundle of sticks and asked them to break it. As hard as the boys tried, they were not able to break the sticks as much as they could. The father wanted to teach his 2 sons that it's easy to break apart people if they are solitary and separate from each other. Yet, if the sons worked together, then it would be impossible for anything to break their spirit. 这是一个父亲用着孩子的要告诉他的2个孩子，我只有一个人，那就很容易被打倒。只有团结才有力量。The Chinese culture, 中国文化, has survived thousands of years, stretching beyond the limits of science. The frame of time turned as one of the front-rank pioneers of the human race. How does one nation hold the oldest people in continuous civilizations dating back millennia? How does one culture extend its sphere of influence across a continent and spread its inventions, religion, customs, and systems to its neighbors, allowing them to grow in their own respective perspectives? The answer lies in the essence of China, the definition of what it is to be Chinese. For inside each and every Chinese person, there lies the concept of 自豪, the seed of honor which evaluates a person's trustworthiness and social status based on his or her actions. So, 中国人以生会中国人为自豪. So through these actions of honesty, respect, integrity, or fairness, the civilization derives its identity in Chinese history to emerge in the modern day and lead one culture to greatness. So the essence of being Chinese is honor, a trait which is defined in Chinese history, culture, philosophy, and art. Honor has been a core tenet in Confucian thought, which in turn has helped formulate modern Chinese society. Beyond this, the role of honor has been paramount in relationships throughout Chinese society, from the relationships between the various Chinese nations in ancient times to the relations among individual citizens. In order to examine this trait and its foundation of the Chinese identity, we will look at China's past with honor both historically and philosophically. From the historical perspective, the role of honor will be examined both in the interactions of the ancient nations of China. With regards to philosophy, as our Honorable Chairman, Mr. Lim, has told us earlier today, the key pieces of literature such as Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, Confucius' Analects, and Sun Tzu's Art of War will all be examined and demonstrated so that we can see the larger role that honor plays in traditional China. Tao Te Ching is the most influential text for the Taoist school of Chinese philosophy. This book focuses on the teaching of the sage Lao Tzu and the role of practical wisdom for the common people on how to live their everyday lives. One major aspect is the idea that the pursuit and gain of knowledge is coupled with humility. If one can disseminate himself from his ego and take away the concept that he has knowledge, then he will benefit many times over. In this manner, the idea of the individual is to develop his sense of self through the lens of honor being as humility. By becoming self-conscious, the individual is able to learn how much that his conception of the world is deficient in the grand scheme of the world. In this manner, he has the privilege of making up that deficit by obtaining what he has perceived to be missing, and he or she obtains honor in this pursuit process. Second, Confucius believed in similar in his book, 论语. Confucius valued highly values such as righteousness, loyalty, and piety as part of the concept of humanity overall. He believed that we, as human beings, have the obligation to be morally upright. Confucius saw a benevolent path for people to take in whichever of their perspectives and define themselves. People should pursue honor as an integral part of their personality, as it reflects the importance of main tenets, the traditional systems, and the continuance of moral structures for future generations. In this manner, it is imperative to have loyalty to one family, pass along this wisdom and knowledge to them, that one day you would reciprocate these sentiments for the next generation. The culmination of these points is a search for righteousness, given the parameters of the benevolent and the middle path. These actions added to the Chinese concept of honor because of the mandate of the knowledge of the analects on the civil service examinations, and made top officers those who had excelled in the pursuit of only knowledge and honor through morality as well. Thirdly, we will look at the art of war. Zhengzi offered a psychological look at how honor affected the state of war. Zhengzi insisted that without honor, those who will act in a different way will fall to disaster. In the realm of the battlefield, there is an ungoverned set of rules that ask for both sides, even though that they are enemies, to have respect for the dying and the wounded, so that loss of life, the worst possible consequence of war, can be avoided at all costs. If you choose to violate these such rules, then the honor beholden in the transgressor is removed, so that under no circumstances in the future that these conditions would be reciprocated. So that the act of combat and warfare is a definition of honor to allow for the violent actions to be used as a mechanism to resolve disputes, rather than just a bloody shed tool of mechanism war. Should warfare be used as an endless repetition of violence and bloodshed, then the human race would cease to exist from all the fighting. The honor system allows for gracious victories and defeats, so that the two opposing parties can move past the battlefield and look for resolution later on. But the transition from the traditional to modern China hinders with the interactions with the Western powers. China's rank relative to them. Ancient China centered around traditions and the respect for the elderly, but the opening up of China forced a new perspective on China, in which China must either assimilate or become annihilated completely. The first records of Western experience with China occurred along with the Silk Road, to the trade routes in which Marco Polo became enamored by the wealth that China held in the silk, spices, and culture. The pride of being Chinese, 中国人自豪, experiencing how China had really united their lands and received tributaries from all the neighboring countries, for China truly was the middle kingdom between heaven and earth. As the Western countries were in awe at how developed that we had become over the generations. The European monarchs were used to treating foreigners as barbarians and looked down upon China. And when they came upon it, they were a little bit surprised because for the first time, here was a foreign entity that appeared that they could be rival themselves in education, knowledge, and strength as well. However, their appreciation for the Chinese society changed. 中国社会改变了 when the European royalty thirsted for even more wealth and sought to usurp them away. The riches of the Chinese government had spent generations developing. The disputes between China and foreign powers culminated when Britain continued to smuggle opium through its colony in India